Last week we completed the simple JSON external view. It means I have a JSON file. So in this case, the JSON file is located at this section. Maybe I open this one. So the JSON file is located at this link. That means if you get the data from any website and if the form is JSON, then you can extract the JSON into your page. So for example, this one. So the data is here, book, title, Python, authors, John Bob, and this the thing. I think you already learned this one before. So this is the JSON file. So if someone share the JSON file through the web, so you can get this file via AJAX. So let's see how the AJAX works. Let's review a little bit. So this AJAX, I'm using the jQuery. What is jQuery? We will learn a little bit later. And I'm using the JavaScript file and the CSS file from the data tables. This is also the JavaScript from the data tables. So we just reuse the existing code and we want to use it into our web page. Now I'm having a table here and the table ID is example. So whenever I have a table, then I want to put into this script. So this is the JavaScript, okay, in the document. The document means the web page. And I have a function where the function will be on the example ID. So yeah, we will see later what is the shop mean. Okay. So it means now I'm going to put the data into the example. Example is here. And then it will be in the form of data table. So the data table, it will perform from AJAX. AJAX is the asynchronous JavaScript. And then we want to use this URL. And then the data source that I'm going to use is book. So if you see this data, the data is book. Okay. So this is the same with this one. And the columns that I want to use in the data tables, there are three, which is title, date, and publisher. So the title is this one, date, it is this one, and publisher is this one. So for every of the column, title, date, publisher, title, date, publisher, title, date, publisher. So it will be the column. So when you finish with this one, you can see the result. Now it is in the form of data table. So this data table is from the data table is from the data table in this one, the data tables.net, because I use the JavaScript file for creating these data tables. And this is already a template. And I'm using the class display. So display is the class from this JavaScript. Okay. So here, the table is more adaptive. So you can sort based on the title, you can sort based on the date, you can sort also based on the publisher. And then you can search. For example, I want to search something about Python. Then yeah, it is automatically show the result. So if I want to search information, then it is automatically show the result. So you don't need to make your filtering function. you can just reuse from this data table. So this is the explanation. Okay, the result will be shown in the ID example. So this is important. Okay, where do you want to show your table? In this case, I'm using the ID example. And we will display using data table. So this is about data table. But if you have another kind of plugin or library, yeah, you can reuse that library based on the function name. In this case, the function name is data table. And I'm going to look at the JSON source. So the JSON source, because we already have the JSON file, we just reuse it. And this is the parent key. Okay, so the parent key is 2, and this is the children key or the hello. Now, let's suppose we want to show the following JSON file. So I'm taking this one as this is free. This is a free JSON file, and the structure is quite good. So this is a JSON file from a movie theater. This is a JSON file from a movie theater in Thailand. So they share this data. And let's say if I want to show this data into my web page. So when you look at this JSON, it's so complicated. It is not easy to understand. But you now understand that the JSON use dictionary. Okay. If you still remember, we can use a kind of data structure dictionary. And this dictionary has the key and value. So if you look at this one, okay, the key is count and the value is 5257. And then we have next is the key, and then the value is a link. So this is the key values and null is the value. Then we have the key results. So the results, now we have a value inside list. So in the list, we have another dictionary, ID, title, Spider-Man, brand new day, language, okay, there is no specific language, real estate, 2026, July 29, and the details. So the details, yeah, this is an ID 8270, the language is Thailand, and etc. Okay. So it is, yeah, in most cases, you will see this kind of data. You can make it as a good print like this. Then it will be in a tree. Now you can see the count is 5257, and this one is the data. Now we have the title, we have the language, real estate, and the details will be something like this. And you can see the URL is connected to this Amazon and so on. Okay. Now, how if I want to get the data from that JSON file? So I'm going to show the following JSON file. So most of the time, it is difficult to understand the structure. So hence, we need to acquire the data dictionary or schema to understand the entire data. Yeah, if you cannot get the schema, then maybe you need to guess, okay, what would be the best. Now, let's say I'm going to modify this one. Uh, Okay, let me just copy and paste this one into the Vue.json. Okay, you have the Vue.json file before. Now let me just delete everything and then put the new one. And now let's run it. Vue.json. And you can see now I can get the data easily. Even though maybe the structure is not easy to understand, but we can figure out the point or the key from the data. For example, yeah, here I want to show the ID, the title, the language, and date. So in this case, the header is still the same. Okay, I do not change anything on the header because yeah, we can just reuse the data tables. We can just use the existing JavaScript from the jQuery and etc. But I need to make the table fit with the data. So in this case, I'm using the ID, title, the language, and the date. So for the JavaScript, so I'm using the AJAX and I will put it into the document with the function that the function will be placed on the example. And the data table that I'm going to use based on the URL, this one. So this is the URL, this has the JSON file. And the source is based on the results. The result means this one. Okay. So the source will be based on the result. And you will check that this is a list. So the first list is this one. And you need to check where is the ending. Okay. This might be the ending of the list. And so on. So it is quite complicated. That's why whenever you have this kind of data, you need to be very, very detailed to check the data. Now, after you have this data, I'm going to check what are the columns that I want to extract. In this case, I want to extract ID, the title, the language, and the real estate. So you can do more later, okay? But now let me just use only for ID, the title, the language, and the real estate. Because there are more data, so you can see here, this data shows only 10 entries. If you want to go to the other data, you can go to the second page. So this is the second page. Then you will see more data. Or if you want to show the entry into 25 data at once, so you can see all data at once in the one page. So it's very convenient to use this tool because you don't need to make your own table. You just reuse the existing code to create a table. Okay, so this is the result. Now, let's move to another way because we already have the idea how to use JSON and how to read JSON. And now how if I want to view the data on the REST framework? So previously we just used JSON, but there is a possibility when you have an API, the API is not in the JSON format. The API is in the REST format. Then how will you show the result on the REST framework? So let's append this one into the fuse.py. Okay, so let's do this one, view rest. So let's go to the view.py. So let's add the view rest. Okay, and then let's put more view. So we want to have another view in the URLs. So we want to show the REST framework and it is error because we need to get the functioning view REST. So the function name, it is dedicated for this link. And then now let's make another HTML in the templates and the name is viewRest.html. So in the template, you can share the new HTML file, view REST. Now I have a new data. Okay, let's run this one. So this is the data from the REST framework. If you still remember the REST framework, it is the we have the REST framework before we show with only the API. So this is the data using the REST framework. With the REST framework, you can see this data in terms of JSON. And now you are going to show this data into a table. So you are going to get the data first. So the data is from this API. So the data is from this. And then the data source is empty because I want to get the data from this API regardless the source name. And the column will be the title and content. So the column will be title and content. So if you look at this one, the column will be title and content, title and content, title and content, title and content. So we have four, and it will be shown in this table four data. The first data, second data, third, and fourth data. Okay, so this is how to show using the REST framework. Okay, so that's the end of this section. So you can see we already learned how to deal with the XML and JSON, and then we also use the REST framework, and we also learned about AJAX. So the XML, let me review a little bit. So in the XML, we have the fit parser. So we use the web from a blog, and we use the news CNN. And yeah, we got those data and then we put into our website. So the second example, we use the JSON file. Okay. So the JSON file, we use the movie from Thailand. It is in the format of JSON and we put it into our website. And for the Django REST framework, We use our own REST framework and we show the data into our web. Yeah, unfortunately, I cannot find the REST framework which is open. So there is no open REST framework. So I just give you the REST framework from our example. And you learn how to do with the AJAX. So the simple AJAX is to show or to read the data and then show the data. Okay. Okay, so this is the end. Any questions? Okay, okay, let's have a break. Okay, I will continue after the break.